All right, we are here today with Mir Yarfitz, another candidate in the Democratic primary in North Carolina's 10th district. I'd love to hear why you're running this year, 2026.
Yeah, so my name is Mir Yarfitz. I'm a candidate for the U.S. House seat here in the 10th District of North Carolina. And I got involved in this race actually in November when ICE came into North Carolina, right, starting in Charlotte, and I went down to Charlotte. I'm a history professor. I teach Latin American history, and I've been a community organizer for the last 30 years, including working with immigrant communities. So I went down to Charlotte, right, to join with other folks at that point. And what I saw was, a couple steps into what I've come to learn is authoritarian fascism. And, my relatives are all Jews from Europe, and I've been told that at that point you stop your normal life and you do something else. So I came back up here and got together with folks who do different kinds of immigrant community organizing and nonprofit work, working in coordination with other groups around the state. And we actually started a new organization called Fuerza Triad, and that was actually just born in late November. And it's an immigrant community defense group, and we work together, immigrants and allies and folks in those various communities. So, what happened is we were there having protests, doing trainings, doing community defense work, and candidates kept showing up. And we were honestly pretty confused. We didn't really realize, actually, late November, primary season already. And candidates kept showing up and taking pictures and handing out their business cards. And so we're like, well, you're here. Could you do something? And honestly, the answer that we got was no. It was no. And that's from incumbents. And honestly, the few candidates who showed up, they didn't. I mean, we gave them a petition. We had 400 signatures in a week. And the answer was no. And so we were like, we need to run some candidates who are going to actually prioritize this. We got together. We were like, who's a citizen? Who can talk in front of people? And I drew the short straw.
Hey, wait a minute. Campaigning's super fun. What is your background in organizing? How do you think that's shaped the way that you, A, run this campaign, and B, how you would make policy in the future?
Yeah, I mean, this very much comes out of ongoing grassroots organizing. So we're still doing the grassroots organizing work. And if you were to look around, which you're not, because this is the room with a bunch of strategic stuff in it, we're making bilingual videos to educate folks on various things related to this election. We're still, my co-founder of the organization is out, every day, every night, continuing to do that work. And a bunch of folks who are working on this campaign are also still doing on the ground organizing in immigrant communities. The crisis is not over, right? People are still basically under house arrest. It's just not in the news right now. So the ongoing organizing work that, I come out of a family of sort of union organizers and political folks. I started doing LGBTQ organizing when I was about 14, and then I ended up inadvertently getting into organizing with the United Farm Workers when I was 17. And just falling into that set my life course. I ended up studying various aspects of Latin American immigrant history and economics and politics in college. I spent time in Nicaragua and Cuba and Argentina, and I worked for various different kinds of labor unions and migrant farm work organizations. Came to realize that as a white person who's not actually from that background, that ultimately that movement wasn't the place for me to be 100% of my time. Went to graduate school, got a PhD at UCLA. So since then, I do research and writing in Latin American history, women, gender, and sexuality studies, and Jewish history. Through that time, I have continued to do different kinds of organizing work. Also a trans man, I'm old, I transitioned 20 years ago. So I've been involved in various epochs, various generations, right, of LGBTQ community organizing. I do a lot of mentoring. And I've actually gotten into tenants organizing over the last 5 or 6 years here in Winston-Salem with a group called Housing Justice Now as a way of connecting with my neighbors from across the city and trying to fight gentrification and evictions and our crisis of people living outside. But, through all of that, my heart is often with our immigrant communities, various kinds, and this has just been an incredible moment of getting to meet people from across the city and immigrants from all different parts of the world who are here in the South, which I think is often not what people think of when they think of the South. And immigrant groups are not incorporated into our political structures, certainly not here in this area.
That's a great answer. What is the most fun thing about campaigning?
I mean, I honestly really like I mean, almost all of it. I don't like the fundraising part, and I'm not doing a good job at it. But I mean, I've always really liked talking to voters. Like, I always volunteer at the polls. Always. Every 2 years, I'm either doing some bilingual poll greeting work or just different things, because I think democracy is exciting, and I think electoral democracy, as fatally flawed as this system is, and I have a lot of critiques, I like talking to people about that moment of choice, right? And honestly, the primaries, you have a lot more choice. And I think it's quite interesting, right? So anyway, I like that part. I like talking to voters. You know, a lot of this is similar to community organizing work, and a lot of it is similar to education work, right? So it's been interesting to shift some of my learning from what I've usually done, which is Latin American history, global history, you know, the different things, to really digging into some US policy issues. But this is a federal seat, right? So the interesting thing about this being a federal seat is that I'm also able to connect my background in thinking about international policy. And Latin American history is very, very relevant to this moment. I mean, I think the parallel is more than to Nazism, is to the kinds of authoritarian regimes that we've seen in South America, where I've spent a lot of time.
I was about to say that mostly came out of American involvement in their countries, and then we're like, how did this happen? Pikachu face. You're shocked.
Yeah.
If you had one thing to say to the voters of the 10th district, what would that be?
Look, now is the time to stand up and do something. If you've never voted in a primary election, now is the time. My campaign is going to focus on a couple of things that are relevant to voters across this district. The number one thing for a lot of folks is affordability, and one of the things that we will start off with is a $20 an hour minimum wage at the federal level. It's been way too long that we in North Carolina are still at the $7.25 an hour, or even worse, $2.13 an hour plus tips. Medicare for all, you know, this is something that we need to get to right away. The health crisis that so many of us are in is just getting worse. And, you know, the thing that got me into this, really pushing back against the human rights violations, the civil rights violations of this violent regime as expressed through ICE, but not only through ICE. So we need to rebuild the Department of Homeland Security from the ground up, but also really take a look at all the constitutional violations of this regime. And Congress needs to start actually governing, and that means doing some things differently.
That's a great place to end. I like it. Well, do you want to just tell people where they can find you? How about that?
Yeah, so you can find me online in various places. Website is www.mirforcongress.com, and we have various socials. The different socials are pretty much all at Mir for Congress NC10. Some variation of that, you know, Facebook, Insta. It's mostly Facebook and Insta, but we keep getting shadow banned. Honestly, on X and in other places, I've had a lot of trouble with my Facebook postings and other things. But right now, we're just fighting with X. I mean, losing. But yeah, come find us, follow us, reach out to us. If you're in the area, like we're running a robust campaign for the next 4 or 5 days. I don't know how many days left. We'll be doing get out the vote work. You know, we're doing poll watching. We're having events. So check us out. We'll be live streaming also a couple more different kinds of events, including with other candidates still over the next few days.